I think that establishment Democrats are really missing the point. We don't want someone who's going to concede to the right wing. We want a fighter. We want someone who's going to make the Republican Party bend to our will.
TYT's Anna Kasparian absolutely nailed it in a discussion with Chris Cuomo and Ana Navarro. Now, I want to show two clips here because I do want to discuss a little bit about what Ana Navarro says in this first clip. But before I get to any of these clips, I have to say, Chris Cuomo deserves some props here for having on Anna Kasparian. I think this is, I know she's been on before, so this is at least the second or third time she's been on. Cenk Uygur's been on a regular basis. Chris Cuomo, to my surprise, is one of the rare people on television actually having on some progressive or real left-wing views on cable news. So he deserves credit for that. Now let's get to this first clip where Ana Navarro says something that is just completely untrue.
Look, practically every poll I've seen about electability shows that any of the Democrats on the top can beat Donald Trump. And so that does not help Joe Biden. What Joe Biden has going for him is that he appeals to people like me, to disenfranchised Republicans, to centrists, to independents, to right-leaning independents. That is his, ace in the hole right now. That is his big card to play.
All right. So Ana Navarro does start off with a fact that most polls show that most Democratic candidates defeat Donald Trump in general election matchups. But there are some differences. I mean, in most of the polls that show Biden defeating Trump, Bernie also defeats Trump by the same number. So it's not like Biden is unique in that sense. But on top of that, what Ana Navarro the case she tries to make here is, well, Joe Biden appeals to people like me. Now, when I was watching that on CNN, the first thought that came to my mind was, yeah, wealthy political insiders in D.C. and New York. That's who Joe Biden appeals to. Guess what? That's a tiny fraction of voters. So, Ana Navarro tries to push this idea that because I don't like Donald Trump as a former Republican or as a Republican, I'm not even sure what she is anymore. But she tries to say, I don't like Trump. I'm a conservative. I don't like Donald Trump. That means there must be many more people just like me that also don't like Donald Trump, that also consider themselves to be conservative. Not true. Not true at all. I mean, again, it's wealthy people on television like Ana Navarro that have this position. But when you look at Republican voters that still support Trump, before I even show you the data, think to yourself, how many Republicans do you think still support Donald Trump? I mean, it's at least 50%, right? So, well, at least 50, maybe 60, maybe 75%, maybe even 75% of Republicans still support Donald Trump. Yeah, it's even higher than that. 88 to 90% of Republican voters still support Donald Trump. There just aren't many Ana Navarros. They exist on television. They exist in Washington, in New York. That's it. Now, again, you may say, but fine. But independents, Joe Biden gets those independents. Yeah, Bernie Sanders gets them with higher numbers. A new Survey USA poll says Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders would trounce Donald Trump in a 2020 matchup 50-42. Common Dreams reports that it is the 15th straight poll that shows Sanders beating Trump. While the poll revealed that Sanders is viewed most favorably by Democratic voters, it also revealed that he would beat Trump by 10 percentage points when only accounting for independents. Comparatively, Joe Biden beat Trump by a 6% margin among independents. And then you have this Hill-Harris-X poll from April. This is back when Biden still had a huge lead with Democrats, which isn't the case anymore. And even with that huge lead with Democrats, Bernie still topped Biden when it came to independent voters. So these voters that Ana Navarro is discussing don't exist. There are many more left-leaning independents than what is usually reported on television. And taking this a step further, let's look at Obama to Trump voters. So this is another stat that is incredibly important when looking at electability. The people that voted for Obama largely twice, voted for Obama and then voted for Trump in 2016, you need a candidate, a Democratic candidate, to appeal to those voters. Who appeals to those voters most? Here is actual data on that. Per the mid-year Act Blue filing, it was known who was leading the donor race nationwide, which was Bernie Sanders. But here is how it broke down in Obama to Trump County specifically. Sanders, over 33,000 donors. Buttigieg, 14,000 donors. Warren, about 13,500 donors. And Joe Biden, 12,000 donors. So when you're looking at Obama to Trump districts, when you combine Warren and Biden, their support, it doesn't even match what Bernie Sanders has in those districts. So when you're talking about electability, Bernie Sanders clearly is the most electable in the most important districts. So, like, this is, I don't even, I hope this data is getting through to people, because this is just completely the opposite of what is usually reported on television. They don't show you these numbers, but these are facts. Again, I put all my sources below the video. You can look through all the data yourself. It's all there. This right here, these are the facts. Bernie Sanders is the most appealing, is the most electable. Now, finally, let's get to the point of this video, which is Anna Kasparian, where she discussed who would be the best challenger to Donald Trump.
I just want to quickly talk about or answer the question about who would be the best challenger to Donald Trump. I mean, look, Biden's got to figure out which state he's in first before he talks about fighting Donald Trump. I mean, he's campaigning in New Hampshire. He thinks that he's in Vermont. He's had one gaffe after the next, and Biden has this habit, and I think you see this with a lot of establishment Democrats, where he thinks he can work with the right wing and compromise with the right wing. I think that establishment Democrats are really missing the point. We don't want someone who's going to concede to the right wing. We want a fighter. We want someone who's going to make the Republican Party bend to our will, because we've been conceding to their side for far too long, far too often, and that has created the type of political climate and the political situation we're dealing with today.
That is exactly right. And how often do you hear that on cable news? That the Democratic Party gives in too much to the right wing. The Democratic Party gives in too much to Republicans. This point is almost never brought up. But over the course of the 80s and 90s, the Democratic Party completely transformed into a party that used to represent working people, unions, and transformed into a party that now represents corporate interests, just like the Republican Party does, just more so. So you have these two parties that both stand up for massive corporations and the wealthy, just to different degrees. So this is exactly why you need a candidate that will completely transform that. And once again, turn the Democratic Party into a party that stands up for working people. And right now, I see one candidate that I truly trust to do that, and that's Bernie Sanders. And just looking back on, at most half measures that Obama did during his 8 years, giving in on healthcare. I mean, Obamacare is a private insurance-based healthcare system. That is not a progressive or left-wing position at all. That is private interest. You're putting the interests of private companies over that of people. That is a right-wing healthcare system. Then you look at his hawkish foreign policy, just straight up conservative, and then giving in to private interests on fossil fuels, education, healthcare again. I mean, this is a theme that not only exists in the U.S., but also worldwide. The Liberal Party in Canada, also always giving in to the right wing, giving in on the environment, on healthcare, foreign policy, again, just straight up conservative. And you also saw this in the UK with the Labour Party before Corbyn became the leader, where, again, always giving in to conservatives on issues. So Americans need to lead here. They need to lead with a Democratic nominee that will push for a worldwide shift in how politics is done. A candidate like Bernie Sanders that actually represents working people and will fight for them, not just in America, but also worldwide, because the rest of us need some help too.